Hello, everyone, and good afternoon from London. It has just a few seconds ago ticked past 1 p.m. UK time. It's the 18th of November. If the audience, if you could just give me a quick Y in the Q&A, just to let me know that we're coming through loud and clear. But welcome, everyone, to the second of our 2022 outlooks. Today, the focus, of course, is on crypto, and I'm super happy to be joined by Omri Ross, Simon Peters, and David Derry. Following on from yesterday's webinar where we focused on equities, which is available on demand should you want to go to the eToro Academy, we're going to use the same format. So we have free polls as well throughout this session where you can all vote, and I encourage you all to do so. And we will also discuss a vast array of topics, including the rise of multi-chain infrastructure and alternatives to Ethereum. So I'm super looking forward to that one. The increasing movement of new blockchains to proof of stake. Also, can you teach an old dog new tricks? We'll focus a little bit on that. Meme coins search for stronger fundamentals. DeFi and staking as well, and then the broader crypto asset adoption supported by new investment vehicles and regulation. Please do use the Q&A function as a chat room. I'll be keeping a close eye on that. And like we did yesterday at the end of the webinar, I'll put some of the questions to the presenters. Before I get onto the presenters and give them an introduction for you all, I just want to go through quickly the disclaimer, which I know you guys can all see on your console anyway, but I just want to make sure that we cover all bases like we do before every webinar. So just to please note that CFDs are complex instruments and come with high risk of losing money rapidly due to leverage. 68% of retail investor accounts lose money when trading CFDs with this provider. You should consider whether you understand how CFDs work and whether you can afford to take the high risk of losing money. This is a marketing communication and should not be taken as investment advice, personal recommendation, or an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any financial instrument. So none of you can message us in a few days' time and be like, they told us to put all our money into Shiba. We would never say that at all. Right, let's get on to the main event. Let's find out who we've got speaking here. So first up, well, throughout the session, we've got Omri Ross, or should I say Professor Dr. Omri Ross, who is our chief blockchain scientist here at eToro and the managing director of eToro X. Dr. Ross earned his PhD in financial mathematics at the University of Cambridge and has held positions at companies such as Barclays Capital and Microsoft. He has had many and multiple publications in top-ranking journals and conferences. We've also got Simon Peters, whose commentary on crypto is regularly published in financial media, as I'm sure some of you are well aware. Simon is a crypto asset market analyst and senior account manager for eToro's Platinum Plus and Diamond level clients here, and has been with us for nearly 5 years, boasting nearly a decade's worth of experience in financial markets and investment management. Just to make it even better, we've also got David there, who is also widely published in the financial press, including CoinDesk, Bitcoin News, Cointelegraph, Crypto News. David is based in France and is part of the French version of the Digest and Invest podcast that we have here as well. So any French speakers, please do check that out. As a crypto asset market analyst here at eToro, he focuses on cryptocurrency and specifically in new staking protocols and yield farming opportunities. Prior to his 5 years here at eToro, he has held wealth management positions in several top-tier French banks. It sounds like I've just given you all Oscar nominations, but Omri, Simon, David, how are we all doing today?
Yeah, good, Sam. Thanks for asking.
Great.
Should we go ahead with the presentation? Or
yeah, awesome. Well, look, guys, to begin with, before I pass over to you, Omri, and we can go through our first subject, we're going to start off with a poll. And I mean, listen, it's been an incredible year for crypto in general. So guys in the audience, please do let us know your thoughts. Are we going to have another positive year? So I want to know everyone's outlook so far for 2022. And I appreciate things can change over time, but where we're standing right now, I want to know, are you very bearish? Are you slightly bearish? Are you neutral for the year ahead? Or are you slightly bullish? Or are you sitting here listening to us and you're very bullish and we're going to the moon? I'll leave this poll up for another 30 minutes or so. I have a bit of an inclination of what I think this result is going to show. But everyone at home voting, do as honest as you can. I'll leave it up here for another sort of 20 seconds. But just to go over those answers again, very bearish, slightly bearish, neutral, which we can sort of say you feel throughout the next part of the year we're going to be trading where we are right now, slightly bullish or very bullish. 5 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Drum roll, please. Here we go. Slightly bullish and very bullish coming in as the win. Only 9.4% very bearish. Omri, is this a surprise to you or kind of what you expected?
I have no idea what to expect in this market for sure. But I think it's always nice to see, the different opinion in that. And I think it's also depending about the horizon, I guess. When you take shorter or longer horizon, people will have different views on that as well. So, shall we start with the presentation? Sam?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I know. What's the sort of first thing you've got for us and that you'd like to cover?
I think we'd like to talk a little bit about scaling solutions and other blockchains. I think first, just to sort of set the ground for that, I think that we are all aware that Ethereum has had a tremendous success over the last several years, and has been seeing an incredible ecosystem built around it of the greatest minds, a lot of developers, and a lot of groundwork working there. But I think the limitation, at least in the first version of Ethereum, before sort of the scaling to Ethereum 2.0, has been roughly about 17 transactions per second. Comparing that amount to 1,000 transactions per second that they are expected today by companies such as Visa and MasterCard. And these are just two specific fintech services. We can expect that it will take a time and energy and infrastructure to actually allow building a true and real economy based on blockchain. We've seen in the last sort of a year and a half a lot of growth, especially with different applications. A lot of them around decentralized finance that David is going to cover later on. But that sort of application that allows people to save and to loan and so they require people to run a lot of transactions as we expect in normal financial markets. And that has been a bit challenging to do directly on Ethereum. So as a result of this, we've seen a few things that are happening there. One is a really increasing gas prices because there has been a lot of competition for any ability to run transaction on Ethereum. And the second thing, we've seen that the foundation worked for a long time on building sort of a longer-term scaling solution, such as things like Ethereum 2.0, where we will be able to see larger transaction, but still we don't expect that to be competing with for the largest transaction in the industry. In this case, there are a lot of innovation in this space, and I'll talk about a few specific ones. But there are plenty. But this few has been very significant. We've seen recently. The first of them will be actually Polkadot. Very interesting sort of chain where the idea there was actually the main idea when they built it was to actually create a lot of connectivity between different types of chains. So sort of moving from a setup where you have one type of chain that now need to integrate to others, and each chain has different standard, to moving to a full-blown multi-standard that can talk together and don't necessarily have to agree about everything. That's a great ability to create great interoperability, and we also seen that all of these side chains that are connected to Polkadot are sometimes named power chains. They offer a lot of growth to the industry, and also we can receive a lot of security from the relay chain that is built as part of it. Other two super interesting chains has been Solana, that got a lot of attention recently, and also had a lot of ecosystems growing around it. There seem to be growing also developers and others in that ecosystem. Recently finished a really large conference in Portugal, where there is a lot of focus on both financial services there and decentralized finance, and we've seen a lot of growth there, again, offering great scalability in terms of time. And it's much lower cost to run things, and that can process 50,000 transactions per second, right? So if we talked before about 17 each or 15 to 30 in Ethereum, that's a big sort of upgrade. So that's a pretty exciting one. There is also a lot of movement to developers and NFTs and other things moving towards that. So they seem to be working on growing ecosystem. I think this is very interesting in today's times where transaction on Ethereum can lead to sometimes cross $100. A third one, which may worth discussing a little bit, is Avalanche, which has a very strong sort of team around it. I think Amin, one of the early professors from Cornell working on this case, has also built a very interesting blockchain with a different consensus mechanism that offer, again, much fast work. And in Avalanche specifically, they've done a lot of work together with existing decentralized finance projects to actually bring in much of that industry over that. The last one I may want to mention as well is Algorand, which is again very, very interesting as well. They have created a statistical mechanism for consensus, so they really changed the ground there to work in ways that can really scale and requires less participant in that regard to achieve this consensus. A lot of technical changes that I should probably not get into much yet, at least in this discussion, but we can have a separate one for them. And also the founder of that is received sort of the highest computer science, sort of the equivalent of the Nobel Prize for Computer Science to building it, Silvio Michalis, and have a very strong team around it. So I think it's really great to see a lot of the greatest minds actually entering this space and working on great scaling solution. And I think it's also worth to mention that that doesn't mean anything grim necessarily for Ethereum, because again, Ethereum has a lot of legacy application and work that has been running on that and running on years. And of course, there is a lot of benefits on working on a sort of initial change, which has a lot of validators and so on it that can actually guarantee a lot of the transaction. So I think that's not necessarily clear now going to a winner takes it all, but whether we see an ecosystem where different sort of applications would work on all of this change. And I would not call them Ethereum killers. I would call them Ethereum friends that help them grow this amazing ecosystem. So that's about scaling. Should we
Ethereum
move for a poll on the next question?
Yeah, Ethereum friends. I like that. And then you talked there about Avalanche, Polkadot, Solana, all available, of course, on the eToro platform. As we move over then to sort of the next section, I've got another poll. Of course I do. On sort of going down the route of staking. So the question I have for all of our wonderful listeners right now, which of these assets would you like to have staking on eToro? So everyone have a vote. Tezos, Solana, Neo, Polkadot, and BSC Binance Smart Chain. Have a little vote on that before we get into the rise of proof of stake, where Omri will go through that. But also, guys, in the chat, for those that voted on the bearish side for the crypto outlook, it'd be fascinating to get in the Q&A your reasons behind that, and we can have a little look through those as well. Poll probably got another sort of 20 seconds, so if you haven't voted, get those in. Just having a look through the Q&A now, some great questions coming up, which I can put to the guys soon. Okay, last 10 seconds. Get your votes in. Should be on your main screen now. Okay, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the winner is Solana, 47.6, 33.2. Omri, then the rise of proof of stake. What are your thoughts on this at the moment?
First, it's really exciting to see the comments here from all of our sort of listeners. It's very useful for us actually to know what our at least possibly clients are interested in. So thank you so much for that. I think it's very interesting, and I think it's really sitting in line with what we're seeing as the things that are more trending nowadays and growing nowadays. So I think it's a really good choice from the audience. I think I'll start with just saying like 2 words on proof of stake in terms of setting sort of why it is built and what are the thoughts around that. The first one was to say that, I think all of us have heard for many years the criticism, which is with a lot of just on the consumption of energy that is done by the Bitcoin network in comparison to different large states in terms of electricity consumption. And I mean, we all realized that that was definitely a needed mechanism when the first blockchain ever, Bitcoin, was created. And with the innovation of the consensus mechanism that required establishing that sort of way of leading consensus with people that doesn't know each other, the proof of work method. Then we've seen a lot of transfer to a more proof of stake blockchains, where based on the amount of stake that you have in the asset, you will be called to vote and lead part of the consensus mechanism, and in that regard, receive some rewards for doing that, rather than rewards going to mining, as in the proof of work model. And this is first and foremost exciting because of the lack of environmental damage that is done by that new innovation. And it's also very, very exciting because suddenly holders of assets, for example, on eToro, can actually receive, in the ones we support, rewards on their holding of their assets. So we're sitting today in a sort of zero environment banking setup zero interest, with negative rates sometimes as well, and then being able to offer participants with minimum element. Sorry for that. Some returns on that is very sort of interesting also from a product point of view. Then and of course it's raised by the great increase sort of reduction of in the electricity consumption of the networks. So we are very excited about it, and we're very excited to offer that and get generally a lot of great feedback from our clients on that. We currently mainly support it on Adatron and for some jurisdiction Ethereum 2.0. It's really exciting to see that people actually are super knowledgeable about it and can share it a lot. We think in terms of, from our point of view, a little bit more about the setup. It's usually done by actually aggregation of some voting sort of, or ability to create a new block, and then building mechanism to participate in the consensus mechanism, and by that support actually the creating of new blocks. And we're also seeing a lot of discussions about the securities that is received by proof of stake in comparison to proof of work. So, and some of the discussion there is also showing that while in the proof of work you could have a lot of different miners and principal elements where you'll have more sort of diversity and more decentralization in creating it, you should also take into mind that when you do that, in reality, you end up with very large pools that usually control a large part of the computational power. So you don't necessarily receive the level of decentralization that you would expect to see. In some of the network, Ethereum, as example, they restrict pool size to be 32 ethers. So actually, in that way, achieve a really, really large amount of pools and different pools which are participating in the proof of stake. And as a result of that, can achieve a super decentralized system still by moving from a proof of stake, which is way safer, and in this regard, much better for the environment mechanism. So that's it. And I think we know that the consensus and also the staking process differ greatly between the different assets, but I think that would be a little bit too technical for our listeners. So I think I move on back to you, Sam, for the next question.
Yeah, well, no, it's fascinating and something I personally want to know a lot more about. But while I've got you, let's talk briefly on meme coins, and I guess we can, have we got to start questioning the sort of the durability of these dog coins, which have had an incredible run in sort of recent months and years. What do you have any sort of thoughts on all of that?
I may, but not deep at all. So I think this will be the shortest discussion. I think the reason why we want to discuss them is because you cannot ignore meme coins nowadays. And I think when Elon Musk, one of the most respected person on this earth right now, is pushing a lot and discussing them a lot, it means that it's really interesting to see the elements around it. I think the most interesting element for me, and the most maybe somewhat even surprising, is that these are not about technology. And I think while you can focus, especially if you come maybe with background more similar to me, Maybe it will be different for for Simon or David from their sort of more business savvy background. It's a surprising phenomenon, but at the same time, it's a little bit telling us the powers of community. And I think that's something that we've seen growing a lot across sort of the blockchain industry, right? We've seen that it's the first time with this sort of integration of Web3 that we've seen a lot. You can actually have now a complete open source projects, right, that have amazing communities, and these projects have ways to sort of offer monetization over that. And I think that's very different than what we've seen in the past with open source processes, where you could potentially build some consulting around them, but you will not have this building of communities and with sort of the mechanism of distribution and fintech and tokens actually build really rich communities. And I think what we see a lot of these meme coins is a lot of very strong communities around and if you follow them closely, they sometimes even build their own language, the way they're discussing things with each other. And I think this is a very interesting phenomenon. And I think also in the strongest technical projects, without having a super strong community behind it, you cannot really build something today which is capturing as much attention in this space. So I think they're really, but for me, one of the big takes from the meme coins, and we support today, I guess, both Doge and Shiba at etoro. You can really see the strength of the community and the say of the community in that. So nothing super smart for me to say, but thanks for that too. Back to you, Sam.
No, thanks for the insight. But yeah, you're right. Community is massive in the crypto world, and it kind of brings us on to the next poll. And David, I know you're going to follow up on this, but for our audience, it'd be great to get your opinions here. And if you want to go into more detail with your answer, feel free to use the Q&A. But the question is, which trend in crypto do you prefer the most in 2022? So first answer up there for the audience, DeFi, then you've got the NFT, or what we just talked about there, meme coins. So get your answers in. I'm just going to highlight that for anyone that they can't see at home, that should have now popped up on your screen. So please do have a vote. 7% so far of the audience have voted, 10% now. So let's get all those votes in. More votes, the better. And yeah, like I said, if you want to follow up on it, feel free to put that into the chat. I look at this question. I don't know which way I think the audience are going to vote, but we'll leave it up there for a little bit longer. 30% of the audience so far have voted, so please do vote if you haven't already done so. David, you're up after this, but just before we see the results, if you were a betting man, what do you think is going to be the most common answer here?
I think it's going to be DeFi, in my opinion.
Okay.
Let's see.
Right, we'll see. 5 seconds left, guys. 5 seconds to get your answers in. Simon, what do you reckon? What's going to be the most common answer?
Well, it depends really if we're referring to growth of the actual space or price action. I think if it's price action, we may lean more towards meme coins, to be fair. But I think from a technology point of view, be DeFi NFTs. But we'll see, I guess.
We'll see. Right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the winner, DeFi, 59.3%. David, over to you. I know you want to sort of go into DeFi in more detail, so this sets it up perfectly.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by the results. DeFi has been a huge trend in 2021, and we see a lot of people joining the movement. And I think the main reason and the main explanation for why DeFi is booming is because simply the traditional finance is broken. So, for example, if we look at the purchasing power of the US dollars in the last 50 years, we saw that it has decreased by 86%. And in the meantime, the US dollar money supply has increased by almost 10,000%. So we are seeing that the bank is extracting a lot of value and dilutes the spending power over the year. So, and as Omri mentioned, we are close to a 0% interest rate. So people are looking for alternatives to, the traditional system. And with DeFi, staking, and all this kind of solution right now, you can receive from 5 to 20% sometimes even in stable coins. So I'm really bullish on DeFi, and I think it's for the first time in history, DeFi and staking empowers like millions of people to hedge not only against inflation but also to hedge against the increase in money supply, and this is via a transparent and decentralized system and without middlemen. So I think it's a very interesting industry. And I'm not surprising by the growth of the industry over the past 2 years. So, for example, at the beginning of the year, there were like 20 billion locked into the DeFi protocols. So, protocols such as AF, Curve, Uniswap, or stuff like this. And it grew from the beginning of the year to almost 260 billion right now. So, it's a huge growth and it's a huge performances. I think we have seen also lots of events happening, and this could be explained by few reasons. The first one, as Omri mentioned, is the fact that the number of users and the number of wallets interacting with this protocol have been increasing a lot during the past year. And I think this is, as Omri you talk about, I think this is mostly due to 2 reasons. So the first one is the layer 2 have came to life. So for example, right now you have Arbitrum, Optimism, even Matic, where you can do like a very cheap swap or very cheap blockchain operation, while on Ethereum the fees were very high and it was blocking some people to do it. We also seen much more layer 1 coming to life this year. So for example, Solana, Cosmos, Avalanche are just becoming to live, and now you can interact with this protocol, and it's a very cheap, it's very fast. So this is, I think, one of the first reasons that can explain the growth in DeFi over the past few years. And the second thing, as Simon told during the poll, is the price performances. So we saw that this kind of asset had a great pricing performances. Some of them also airdropped some tokens to the early users. So for example, Uniswap did it. Recently we had PowerSwap, ENS domain who did it also. So we see a lot of people like airdropping money, and then the prices of this asset are performing very well. So for example, at etoro, we have like the DeFi smart portfolio, which is composed of some of the main DeFi token. And there is like in total there is 11 assets in the portfolio, and we have seen the performances of the portfolio during the beginning of the year. It's up more than 1,000% since the beginning of the year. So it has been very, very impressive. And I think these are the main 2 reasons of why people are using DeFi a lot, and why they think DeFi it's very important for society. Something also very interesting to look at, and I think in 2022 we will see more and more companies launching the offering into this kind of technology, like banks, like traditional finance player trying to launch this kind of offering on top of a normal offering. And I think this will be helped by CBDC, central bank digital currencies. And I think with CBDC coming to live, we may see more and more like centralized player launching the offering into DeFi. So something very interesting that give a very good opportunity to millions of people, and it's very nice to see this for the first time of history. Like people taking control of their own money and being able to borrow, to lend money, to do a swap without having like a centralized entity. So in my opinion, I'm very bullish for DeFi asset in general. I think one of the problem could be regulation, but except this, I'm very bullish on DeFi protocols, and with Ethereum 2.0 coming next year, the fees may be less important on Ethereum, and we may see also more and more users using this kind of solution. But yeah, I mean, like, who doesn't want to receive like 10% interest, even more? Like it's crazy, and it's very complicated to stay in the normal and traditional system. When you have like blockchain, you own your asset and you can having like very important yield. And I think this is the beginning. So the yield are very interesting right now. And over the year, it may stabilize and we may see like a more normal year. I don't think we will see like a 2-digit number yield on a stable coin or stuff like this in 10 years from now. But for now, it's the beginning. So it's a great opportunity for everyone. There are lots of protocols that are really interesting. I quoted some like Curve, Aave, Uniswap, and much more. And I think with the fact that more and more chains are coming, we will see more and more protocols and projects going into it. The only problem that can face DeFi, in my opinion, is regulation. As we saw with some company, for example, BlockFi or Coinbase wanted to launch like a saving account and leveraging DeFi opportunity, and it has been stopped by the regulators. So we will see what's going on for the next few years, but I'm very bullish, and with the fact that CBDC are coming, I think like banks will enjoy the innovation and not kill it. But yes, Simon, what do you think? Do you think regulation can be a problem for DeFi or for stablecoin in general?
Yeah, I think regulation is one of those things that can either allow the industry to flourish or can be the opposite. Simply put, we've seen examples with China, where the banning of Bitcoin mining and also the gating of transactions there. But other countries like El Salvador have made Bitcoin and potentially other cryptos later down the line legal tender. So it depends on which side of the scale the regulatory authority wants to sit on, to be honest. So that's where we are, and that's what leads me to the point that I want to speak about today, is about the sort of the current state of the crypto world and where we are in terms of adoption, and sort of my thoughts for next year. Without a doubt, looking at crypto, and blockchain, it's the fastest growing technology we've ever seen. Far outpacing the internet, and I would expect this to continue going forward into 2022. Whether that results in a price increase, we'll have to see, because typically we do or have seen a bear market every 4 years, and with the last one being in 2018. 2022 is of course 4 years later, so we may see a decline in prices, but who knows? But what I would say, there's far more ways and far more users wanting to get exposure to the space now. We've seen in the last few months the approval of a Bitcoin ETF, albeit futures and not the underlying asset, which some in the crypto community would consider as being inferior, but nevertheless it's a positive step in the right direction. There are applications pending for a Bitcoin spot ETF, where if it was to be approved, the ETF would have to buy the underlying asset, which in this case would be the crypto itself. And if we do see an influx of new capital into these ETFs, in turn that will theoretically should put some buying pressure on the price. So that's one of the main things that I'm really looking at this year, is if we do see, or for next year I should say, if we do see approval of a spot ETF. There's trillions or hundreds of trillions of dollars of liquid assets have been held globally by institutions, and if a small proportion of that comes into the space with with an approval of an ETF in a vehicle that the institutional world are far more comfortable to than buying the underlying crypto and storing it on a hardware wallet, or however they may feel they want to store it, and dealing with private keys and things like that. It provides a way for investors to get exposure via vehicles that they're far more comfortable with. And I think that if we do see an approval of the ETF of the underlying asset, we could see a wave of the investment coming in. But something that David mentioned also was about DeFi and staking rewards, and with interest rates being as low as they are, even though we're in a situation at this moment in time with high inflation and potential rate increases on the cards, that the rate increases will put the rates to a point where we're potentially far lower than we have been historically. So investors I think are wise to this and are looking for ways to to maximize their earning potential. And you look at some of the staking opportunities that are out there, some that we have on eToro ourselves with, the likes of Cardano and Tron, and staking within the wallet with Ethereum, and potentially some new ones. They're offering far higher returns. So investors are looking at these opportunities now within the DeFi space to really maximize their earning potential, and that's something I think could grow over next year, especially not just within the community on eToro, but throughout the space in general. But at the same time, I sort of mentioned El Salvador and legal tender and currencies. We have seen that take place this year, which was a monumental moment, and there are other countries taking note. So whilst at the same time, we are seeing the sort of retail clients and the institutional world look at Bitcoin from an investment point of view, we do have it being adopted for its original purpose, so to speak, which is a digital peer-to-peer currency without any central authority. So there are other countries looking at this, and perhaps in 2022 we will see other countries make Bitcoin legal tender as well. And just on the final note about stablecoins, it's a topic that's getting a lot of attention at the moment. Stablecoins, one-to-one backing against the fiat currency is there to represent. Most stablecoins are backed against the US dollar. I do believe with regulation of stablecoins, it will open up new opportunities, because if we do see a blueprint created, to put it in simple terms, it could open the door for other financial institutions to create their own stablecoins, and in turn provide a significant on-ramp for clientele that they have to get exposure to the crypto world. So I do see that as being positive, and also with stablecoins as well, we could see them being used as means of payments, and that could open up mass opportunities for global commerce there. So they're the sort of the main trends that I'm focusing on at this moment in time for 2022.
Yeah, thank you very much, Simon. We got a little bit of time for some questions, and I guess, Simon, I can start with you, seeing as I've got you right now. Have you got any thoughts on sort of the leading emerging crypto trends, and if so, what are they, and what you kind of focus on?
Yeah, so I think what we've seen, as you've got in the poll there, NFTs, a hot topic this year. Very interesting. Some just see it as like little pixelated digital images that you can buy and sell in marketplaces, but it does expand far more than that. And one of the more interesting NFTs that I did see recently was the Dolce & Gabbana release. I don't know if anyone has in the audience read the news about that, but that was very interesting, where we saw customized digital fashion being auctioned, and combine this with another emerging trend, the metaverse, where we can sort of communicate with each other in a much more fluid way. And I think with the metaverse as well, the pandemic unfortunately highlighted the need for us as humans to interact with each other, and when that was taken away from us, we had to explore new ways of interacting, the likes of Zoom, Teams, and things like that. But with the metaverse, it will provide a much fluid way for us to communicate with each other, and even situations where we are today, we're on a webinar, on a computer, the metaverse could completely change that, where it'll be a much more immersive experience for everyone. So it'd be almost like you're live. You have the sort of digital reputation of yourself, with others around you, and that's where the world is going. And I do see that being a trend for next year, but I think more so over the next 5 to 10 years, that's when it will really take off. But we're starting to see the early stages of it now. And just going back to the point of NFTs, that can be brought into the metaverse, digital wearables, but also being able to spend within the metaverse itself. We see it with Decentraland, and an example there is virtual casinos, where you can use the mana token to go into a virtual casino within Decentraland and gamble. So there's a lot of interesting possibilities with the metaverse, certainly, and with NFTs also.
So this time in a couple of years, we'll all be in a big metaverse studio somewhere interacting. That's going to be the plan.
It's very possible.
David,
yeah.
it is. David, Simon, and we've all sort of touched upon it today on NFTs, but what's your view on the sort of the NFT boom that we've had and the outlook for the future? It's been a common question in the Q&A, so I'm going to put that towards you.
So personally, I love NFT and I own some. I used to love NFT boom because it reminds me the ICO boom of 2017. You know, it was a bit similar with a lot of NFT project launching like every day on, especially on new chain. For example, Solana was really active to attract like NFT project on the chain because of the low fees and fast transaction. So I think NFT are very, very interesting. I don't understand the people who say like you can right click and save it as a picture, you know, on the computer. I think for me, they are the same people that with the people who are saying this, they are the same people who are calling Bitcoin a scam and a Ponzi scheme at 10K. So I'm very bullish on NFT. After, I think like people who want to invest in NFT should be responsible and not FOMO in like every new NFT project, because as I say, there are lots of NFT projects going out like every day, every 2 days, you know, on different chains. So they need to do the due diligence, and they need to know that when you buy an NFT, most of the time it will be highly liquid, meaning when you buy it, you will not sell it like very easily. So you need to understand what you buy. You need to look at the community and stuff like this. But after, I think like NFT are going to stay, and I think people are going to be surprised of what we will do with NFT. For me, NFT is like digital ownership. So you own, for example, a digital image or something like this. It can be a domain. It can be a domain name. It can be something else. But I think it has like lots of potential, especially in some industry. For example, we used to talk about the metaverse and stuff like this. Simon used to talk about it. So I think in gaming, it will have a huge impact. The fact that when you buy a skin on a video game or when you buy something on the video game, it will not be over after it. For example, I play the video game FIFA, so you know you have to buy cars every time, and when the year is finished, you need to buy a new game and restart from scratch. With NFT, you can just transfer your NFT card or stuff like this. I think this is a domain that is going to be very, very interesting. And finally, to not take too much time, I also think that NFT are a bit like, you know, Dogecoin or Shiba. So, I mean, like when you own an NFT, you are part of a community, you know. So when you own like a Bored Ape, or when you own, I don't know, like an Orori on Solana, you are really part of a community, and you communicate on Discord with the people, and you all share the same values, the same passion for crypto and tech. So I think it's a very interesting new form of art, and I'm very curious to see how it's going to be evolving in the next few years. I think, and I'm waiting for the first project who will raise funds with NFT, because I think it could be also a very innovative idea to do like a fundraising by launching like an NFT collection and fundraise this way. So I think there's a lot of opportunities in NFT, and we are not at like 10% yet. I think we will be surprised. It's also going to be a great way for brands to fidelize the customers and users and stuff like this, you know, by giving NFT to the first buyer, the biggest user or something like this. So I think there is a lot of opportunities, and we are just at the beginning.
Thank you very much, David, and thank you very much, everyone, for joining. We've just about run out of time there. I know I'm off to Google Dolce & Gabbana NFTs myself, but next week on Wednesday is the third 2022 market outlook, and that's on international is the title of that, international opportunities in Asia, UK, Europe, and we're sort of going to focus on how it's not just about US. So that is next Wednesday, the 24th of November at 1 p.m. UK time. But guys, thank you so much for joining in the chat. I hope you appreciate that. We covered so much. It was a great session. And Omri, Simon, and David, thank you very much for joining as well.
No problem. Thank you, everyone who have listened.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
Take care, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.